DC101, I'm Mike Jones. It is an honor to talk to this gentleman. You know him as Silent Bob, Mr. Kevin Smith. What's going on, dude? How you doing?
Very good. How are you?
I'm great, brother. I'm great. So I watched the trailer for the super groovy cartoon movie. First off, you guys didn't hold back, even on the trailer. Unbelievably filthy, just the way we love Jay and Silent Bob.
It's what's so weird about it is, like, I don't even think about it because, you know, that's our world, right? Everything's kind of salacious and candid and whatnot. So when the movies, the trailers started playing, and sometimes they play it on TV shows, like, you suddenly realize, oh, there's a giant phallus with a cape, like, in the movie, and there's things popping off the top of his head. So I guess it is kind of like really dirty. Those aspects, just looking at it, it looks kind of dirty. And then, of course, there's the jokes and stuff. But it's so funny. Like, Jason did a phenomenal job.
It looks great, man. It absolutely looks great. But that's the thing that I love about Jay and Silent Bob. When you do stuff, if it's you, if it's Jason, if it's both of you together, there's no PC crap. There's no punches, pulls. You guys are just going and swinging right from the get-go.
It's real. I mean, I'm certainly not comparing it to these shows, but what I like about the movie is it's like watching an episode of The Simpsons or Family Guy if they were allowed to curse. And
exactly.
Like, we just kind of go for it. It's freeing, very fun.
Now, you're going to be here with Jason for the premiere of the movie in D.C. this coming Sunday, Jay and Silent Bob's super groovy cartoon movie at the Warner. Now, I was looking at the event on LiveNation.com, Kev. They say they want mature audiences 16 and over. Now, really, when you were 16, were you mature enough to handle that kind of stuff?
Not at all. And I'll tell you, and honestly, the movie requires immature audiences in order to thrive. A mature audience would walk out in the first 5 minutes. We need those immature cats to hang out and giggle through all our little wiener jokes.
Maybe they should have said mentality of a 16-year-old.
Exactly. That's what we got.
No, but I think it's really cool, and I love the idea and the fact that you guys did the cartoon, because this way now, Jay and Silent Bob, you guys are immortal. I mean,
that's right, dude.
Centuries down the
road.
road.
I can get as fat as I want now without having to worry about, fitting into the jeans and the coat anymore. Cartoon is the way to go. It's like Cocoon, dude. We'll never get older and we'll never die.
You know what? It reminds me of when Gene Simmons said, "One day we won't be in Kiss, but Kiss will still live on."
That's true. Yeah, it's true, especially with the makeup. It's kind of ingenious. They can keep going.
Well, Gene just wants to make money after he dies. That's the whole point.
I remember meeting Gene Simmons, and he immediately, within 30 seconds of being introduced to him, he opened up a little notepad, and it was full of ideas, money-making ideas. He opened up a little notepad, showed me a drawing of a money bag with a dollar sign on it, and I said, "What's this?" And he goes, "This has not been trademarked. Nobody ever trademarked or copyrighted the money bag with the dollar sign, so I did it." I was like, this is a guy who knows how to make money.
I'm surprised that on the KISS logo, there's not $2 signs at the end of it.
I know, right? There's two little bars going through through the S's. But he was the guy that, like, early on, he was like, look, there are going to be KISS coffins, so you could take us right to the grave. That's so smart, man. Like, I don't know how many they ever sold, but there's got to be like a few people in the world who was like, I would totally take a KISS coffin. Not even to be buried in, just to have in my house.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. You know what? Speaking of merchandise, are you proud of the fact that you and Jay have the only action figures with bongs and dime bags as accessories?
It is, especially now as I have a 13-year-old daughter. She comes into her own and starts understanding what all the little action figure accessories have been all these years. It is a point of pride, man. It's one of those things. Look, I'm never going to win an Academy Award, nor would I even try. So I settle for little big goals, man, little things. I like to go through the door first on things that people haven't done before that aren't very important and there's no competition for. So it's like, hey, man, let's make a cartoon with a giant phallus in it, with a cape, boom, like we're the first. So, you feel good about that kind of thing. Affleck, he can have his Argo Oscars and whatnot. I believe in the little goal and in being the guy with an action figure that has a dog with a giant red lipstick on it.
You know what? If you shoot low, Kevin, you always achieve your goals. There you go.
Thank you, sir. Story of my life. All these people shooting high, they just don't get it. Aim low, drop that bar, and just step over it.
Exactly. And when you go above and beyond, you look like the best guy on the planet.
Exactly. If you just go a little bit above that range, they're like, "Oh, look at him, he's learning."
Do you have a bunch of action figures at your house? I know you're a big comic guy. Like, do you have a big collection of them or anything?
I do. Well, I got rid of my Star Wars figures, and I had Batman the Animated Series figures back when my kid was little, because she started taking them off the wall and opening them. They were sealed, of course, and I had them mounted on the wall. And one day she was in the, they're toys. They're hanging on the wall. She's like tall enough to stand. She's about 1 or 2, and probably 2. And boom, she starts taking them down and just like a kid playing with them, ripping them open. And I was like, you know what? Rather than get upset with my only child, I think maybe it's time to kind of let go of the collector aspect of it. So now I stick to mostly sculptures. Like my desk has about 6 different Dark Knight Batman sculptures on it right now.
What's what's the prized possession in the Kevin Smith collection?
Let me think. What is the thing? Honestly, it sounds weird and it's not very geeky, but I have Andy Warhol did a print of Wayne Gretzky that I've got on my wall that I love to death. Like it's classy but campy at the same time. So in terms of prized possessions, that's right up there. I don't go after, like, I used to have this bronze Sandman statue, which was gorgeous. But I don't know, like the older one gets, the more you start letting go of your crap, because you start looking around, like as relatives die off and you're left to deal with the detritus of their life, all their paperwork and house contents, you start looking at your own and being like, who's going to deal with all this crap? So now you start like lessening the stuff that I'm trying to go more monastic with my ownership, try to let go of things.
But you still have a couple Batman things there, and I like that you still remember.
Oh, God, yes. And I got a big old Batman utility belt that Muse gave me and whatnot. Some people have been like, do you have a Batman outfit? I'm like, why? I would never fit into it.
You know what? Okay, can we nerd about Batman for a minute then, Kevin?
Yes.
Okay, did you read the Death in the Family storyline that was just came out
Snyder
recently?
crushed it. Death of the Family.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
He did such a good job. I mean, they're killing it over at DC right now with the new 52. They put a little more gas in their engines because they just rebooted and kind of gave themselves places to go in their storytelling, but also they brought in some cool talent. Snyder's a really good writer, and he's been crushing it on Batman. I had him on my Fat Man on Batman podcast, I guess about 3-4 months ago, and he's committed to the cause, man. He's a big fan of the Bat. But speaking of Batman, let's jump to Superman. Did you see the Man of Steel trailer?
I did. I love it.
It's a religious experience. Like that movie, like I was always going to see it because it's a comic book movie and Superman. But
of course,
I wasn't like, oh, I got to see it until the latest trailer. Then I was like, oh my God, he's got me. I'm there, hook, line, and sinker. Yeah,
I think the S on the costume, it really stands out, and I like that they explain that it's not an S to him, but something else. So that's pretty cool
it stands for hope on my planet.
One other thing about Batman, I really don't want to get off track here, but do you like the fact that they cut the Joker's face off? Do you like that angle?
I thought it was different. I mean, look, comic books, I was once told by Mike Carlin, who's a Superman editor there for years, he said, comic books are all second act, dude. It's all middle story. Like, the origin's done, and you're never going to end, so it's all middle story. So we always have to figure out how to keep it going. It's like a soap opera. Like, when a soap opera runs for 20 years, you're like, how do they keep going? It's just all act 2. They can't begin it again, and they can't end it, or else it's done. So in a world of, like, having to generate Act 2 over and over again, sooner or later, I mean, I'm not going to say it stands to reason that somebody that the Joker's face is cut off and now it's different. But it's just one of those things where you're like, all right, why not? They could always fix it. Everything can always go back to normal. I mean, Spider-Man, they're doing right now over in Spider-Man. Spider-Man's not even Spider-Man. It's Doc Ock, in his soul inside Spider-Man's body, and Spider-Man was trapped in Doc Ock's body, and then he died. Like, and there were a bunch of people that got upset, but they forget, like, everything can go back to normal. Like, they're just trying to engage you in a story. And if you don't like it, if there's enough fan outcry, they'll ameliorate. They'll go back and they'll smooth it over and make sure everything goes back to normal. But it's so weird how people get so tight about something that's not true. Yeah. Something that's made up. Like, people will be like, Batman would never do that. And you're like, Batman would never do anything because Batman is not real. So when it comes to the storytelling, you got to be able to let go a little bit. And we, as nerds, we draw lines for ourselves constantly. Be like, this is what I believe in when it comes to this character. And then that we get that challenge periodically when somebody's like, guess what? The Joker's face got cut off. So he's got a Leatherface thing going on. Why not go in that direction? Like, think about how hard it is to get past the Heath Ledger Joker at this point. It's so embedded in everybody's memory and pop culture and whatnot. So in a world where the comics have always led the way with the character of the Joker, and then it flipped in The Dark Knight, kind of presented a Joker that they were then having to follow, doing a version where they cut off his face is just like, all right, man, let's up the ante. This is our Joker again.
Absolutely. You know, it was Jack taking it to a next level back in '89, and then Heath did it, and now something totally new and really creepy too. I love the way they went with it.
It's a good idea, and every time he gets punched in the face, like you see it shift and whatnot, and it's mean looking. It's metal. It's got hooks in it, so it's kind of a cool thing. Think about the clown was never really scary just to look at. You know, this dude in a Harlequin type tuxedo and whatnot, and the face paint. They would tell you he was scary and that he did horrible things, but there was no real unnerving menace to him beyond like, oh, clowns are scary. So in doing what they did and cutting the face off and then pinning it back on, now he's a grotesque. He's truly a monster.
Absolutely. Did you notice I don't know if you saw this, but in the little details, there were also flies always buzzing around him, like his face was...
Yes! Isn't that sweet?
Maggots
so he's
probably
just constantly,
there, too.
like, rotting.
Yeah.
It's a really cool idea.
Absolutely. Okay, let's get back to what we're talking about, Kev. I'm sorry for derailing like that.
No worries. I could talk comic books forever.
Well, we probably could go on for a couple hours then. Sunday, also at the Warner Theater, it's not just the movie being shown, but also you guys are doing the podcast there,
yeah,
too,
right
right?
afterwards. We showed a movie, Jay and Silent Bob, super groovy cartoon movie, and then afterwards everyone go grab a smoke, take a leak, then we come back in and we start the real show, which is Jay and Silent Bob Get Old, the live podcast we do. And this time around, it's Q&A style with the audience as well, so they're in on the show.
Now, have you guys done this before with Q&A and an audience?
We did. I went on tour with Red State 2 years ago, and
Okay.
that's kind of why we're doing it with this movie, because we had such a good time with that tour. So we'd show the flick, and then afterwards get up, do Q&A, and record it. This time around, we're taking it one step further and we're doing a Q&A, but in the midst of the live podcast that we always do on the road. So it's that's the most satisfying aspect. Like film and even something like Jay and Silent Bob Super Groovy Cartoon Movie, it's a communications medium, man. So you're always trying to get in touch with the audience. You're always trying to hurl a message out there, see if anybody agrees or identifies. So for us, I can't speak for Muse as much for myself, but the notion of standing up on a stage after the work is done, like after they've seen what we've done, is more intoxicating to me than actually making the movie, because it's all about sitting down with the audience and going, what did you think? What did you think? So that, to me, is like, that's the whole reason one does it. We don't make these films and then hide them under a bushel. We basically make them and we put them out there and like, what do you think? So being in a room with a bunch of people who are just telling you what they think in real time and whatnot, not just on social media, has always been preferable to me, man. You get instant feedback on the work itself with people laughing or crying or whatever based on what the movie is, and then you get their feedback, the personal feedback afterwards when you get into the Q&A and you start finding out what worked for them, and they tell you the stories that relate based on their life. I mean, that's fantastic. That's what I like, doing that more than making the movies, to be honest with you.
I guess it would be the same thing as like when a band's up on stage and the crowd goes nuts when they play the song.
Exactly. Oh, yes. I mean, when on the Red State tour, I had so many nights where I felt like, wow, this must be what it's like to have a rock concert, because we would show the movie and then have a rollicking Q&A afterwards and whatnot. There was so much energy in the room. And, I've done Q&As. I've been on stage, done Q&As. I've been on stage doing live podcasts and whatnot. And I've been on stage showing movies, but combining all three into one with the hardcore fan base. Like, again, we're not going out there in the world and trying to recruit everybody to come see it. We know, like, only the hardcores are into this. So you're spending all your time in a building with a bunch of hardcore fans, and it's very much like going to church. There's a religious fervency and whatnot, because you've now weeded out casual people who are just like, oh, I think I saw Clerks once, and you're left with people who are just like, I've got your character tattooed on my body. So these screenings are religious for us, because it's us hanging out with the hardest of hardcore fans and not going out of our way to like put advertising on TV to kind of get people to come see it. It's, if you follow us on Twitter or you follow me on Facebook or the Jay and Bob Facebook, you know about this thing. Other than that, like, it's catch as catch can. And I like not slamming stuff down people's throat. The oversell always kills me, and kills other things for me. Where I'm like, oh, I want to see this, and then all of a sudden I can't turn around without seeing it, and then I'm like, I'm sick of it, and I haven't even seen it yet. So with ours, we don't have that. We spend no money doing this. Like, the idea, and a lot of people are like, yeah, spend money and make money. We're kind of the opposite of Smodco. We don't like to spend money, and we do like to make money. So we made the cartoon movie for only $69,000. So the moment tickets went on sale, dude, we were in profit. It was crazy.
That's great. I mean, why spend all that overhead when you can make all the money and bring it back for yourself? Plus, you know who you want at the shows. Just direct it to them. That's that easy.
And that's what artists, like musical artists, have been doing that for years and years and years. So we just kind of adopted it for the movie, and we did it once with Red State, now doing it again with Jay and Silent Bob's super groovy cartoon movie. If we do Clerks 3 next year, knock wood, it won't be that way because somebody else owns Clerks. Like, I have to go to somebody else and be like, hey, I want to do a Clerks 3. Mm-hmm. And so, that's the Weinstein Company. So if they decide to do it, then they'll probably put the movie out traditionally, but I would have rather done it my way. I love going out road touring it, man.
You guys are going to do the East Coast tour. You're starting, Saturday in Atlanta and then moving up the East Coast. Are we going to go West Coast, or are you going DVD with it afterwards, or what's the plan?
No, we're going to we're using this all year to tour on the back of. So
okay.
Right now we do the East Coast. We go back to California to do a bunch of California dates. Then I think it's mid-May, we head out into the Midwest, and we do Chicago and Detroit and oh, good Lord, what's the other one? Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. And then there's like 3 or more dates there. And now we're setting up the Texas leg, which looks like it's June, July. Then there's an Ohio leg. Like, we're just going to keep it going. Then we go overseas with it. So it's kind of like our touring movie this year. And it's nice because there's no pressure. Since the budget was so low, there's no pressure to be like, we got to go out and make as much money as we can as possible, as fast as possible. It's more like, hey, man, let's go out and tour this week. Or, hey, let's build this and go out and we've never been here. Let's go to this place. So it's more casual, man. It's more relaxed. There's not the urgency that always seems to surround the entertainment business. There's always this, like, hurry up and wait and kind of affair going on in the movie biz particularly. And for us, we just kind of, like, hey, let's do this. Let's figure it out, and we'll figure out how to do it without asking anybody or without bothering anybody.
And I guess that's good to plan your lives around when you're like, okay, I don't want to do it this week because I want to take the family out to the beach, or Comic-Con's coming up. I want to be there for that.
Bingo. So you can kind of plan around your life as well, because it's important to have a life. If you're going to do any work that connects with anybody on any sort of personal or emotional or honest level, you have to come from the real world like everybody else. So as fun as it is to create stuff, you always got to remember to live in the real world. Otherwise, you're not informed to create anything. You're just, like, I looked at Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I love that movie, but it's an example of a guy who at the time just ran out of stuff to say, so he started making movies about making movies. So it's important to live a life so that you always do have something to say and put into your work, whether it be a movie, podcast, anything.
Absolutely. You got to have those experiences. Otherwise, you're talking about nothing, really.
Exactly. You got to live an empirical life where it's just like not so much. You got to do it yourself. You got to be boots on the ground. You got to be the person with the experience. You can't just be reading about it in a book or having somebody explain it to you. The process is its own reward, for heaven's sake. So sometimes in doing these things, you actually become a better person, even though you don't want to.
2 things before I let you go, Kev. First, with Injustice, Gods Among Us. Come on, Aquaman does not beat anybody.
Dude, play the game. It's astounding.
I played the demo.
His special move is one of my favorite things I've ever seen in life, dude. You hit the code, and boom, they zoom in on him, and he's got the face of like, here comes the special move. And what he does is he pulls out a trident, whacks you with it, stabs you with it, and then plangs it into the ground. And when he does that, a tidal wave pops up behind him, hits you, the opponent, with full force, with tons of sea life in it, whales, seals, fish, and then Aquaman, you're underwater, he picks you up with his trident, holds you aloft, and a giant great white shark comes and just eats you.
Okay, that's kind of cool.
Come on, that's the coolest special move in the whole game. It's astounding, and they found a way to make it badass. It was such a fun job. We did a little commercial for it. Mm-hmm. It was such a fun job to do because we actually were like, we love this. We play this game anyway. So it was kind of neat. It's one of the rare times where somebody's like, would you like to do some commercial work? And it coincides with your actual interest, so you don't feel dirty, not like, oh, I'm selling something I would never even sell or believe in myself. Like, this is a game we've already lost time playing.
This soda tastes like battery acid, but here you go, America.
Exactly.
All right.
It's much easier to just be able to hand them the real soda as opposed to the battery acid.
And the one last thing, Kev. Tonight, Rush is getting in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Your favorite Rush song?
My favorite Rush song, Spirit of Radio. I know a lot of people, of course, would say Tom Sawyer. I love Tom Sawyer, and I want to use it in my Hit Somebody miniseries. But Spirit of Radio, not only being the first song of the 1980s, it was the very first song that was released in that year of 1980, but for the entire decade. It's not emblematic of an 80s tune. Like when you say 80s, people have a very specific kind of pop song in their mind. And this was a power trio, 3 dudes just playing instruments, pure rock and roll. And with that song, with Spirit of Radio, they found a way to kind of distill everything about Rush into one song. When I think about Rush, I think of Spirit of Radio. It's such an uplifting song that's also complicated to play. They have different time changes. Like, Rush has always done its own thing, and that song was kind of the one where they got paid off for doing their own thing. Like, finally, their sensibilities and commercial sensibilities coincided at one time where people were on the mainstream were like, oh, I like this song. You know, even though it's a Rush song and whatnot, it speaks to me. And boom, Spirit of Radio takes off. So that will always be the number one Rush song in my heart.
I'm glad you didn't say Tom Sawyer, by the way.
It's the easy go-to, and it's a wonderful song.
It is. It really is.
And honestly, if you want to talk about just songs and not lyrical songs, YYZ, man, is amazing. Dun, 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 dun. It's just an instrumental piece. And that, too, is very emblematic of Rush. That's a great band. They deserve to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, they do. For me, by the way, Limelight. That's mine.
Oh, see, that's a song, absolutely. That would be my number 2, man. Especially, I love that song. It has, like, a significant meaning if you spend a lot of time on your life on a stage and stuff. It's kind of cool.
If I was a pro wrestler, that would be the one I came out to.
That's your wrestling song?
Yeah.
It's not like Mama Said Knock You Out. I guess that's been done.
Yeah, I think that's more of a boxing song. Mama Said Knock You Out.
You got to pick something that nobody would expect, like a song from Ice Castles. Like, please don't let this feeling end. Something really tender where people are like, he's going to get his ass beat.
What about Toxic from Britney Spears or something like that?
I would take that.
Kevin, I'm looking forward to Sunday night at the Warner Theater. Jay and Silent Bob's super groovy cartoon movie. We'll see the film. Then you guys are doing the podcast right up on stage. LiveNation.com. That's where you go to get your tickets. And on Twitter at @ThatKevinSmith.
That's me.
Okay, and csmod.com/groovymovie for the unbelievably not safe for work trailer.
Yes, they'll see it. Yeah, don't watch it around boss or your kids.
You should be in a closet with the sound down and headphones on, probably. Kevin, great talking to you, man. I wish you all the success in the world, my brother.
All right, we'll see you on Sunday.